The research station drifted in silence above the gray planet. Its metal walls hummed with the low thrum of energy conduits. To most, it was only another outpost in deep space, but to Ethan Ward, a human engineer, it was home. He was used to long hours, humming machinery and the smell of coolant on his hands. It was late when the alarm broke the quiet. A shrill, echoing sound rang through the maintenance corridors. Ethan pulled his head up from the broken console he had been repairing. At first, he thought it was a fire alert, but then he saw the flashing red glyphs on the wall display, alien script mixed with the universal language. Medical emergency. Alien Sector 7, Ethan frowned. He rarely went to the alien wings of the station. Humans were not forbidden there, but the cultures preferred to keep their quarters separate. He grabbed his toolkit by habit. Tools were comfort to him, and started toward the alarm. The corridor lights flickered as he moved quickly through the station. His boots echoed on the floor. A few other humans peeked out of their rooms wondering what was happening, but no one followed. Medical issues in alien sectors were not a human problem, but something in Ethan's gut told him not to ignore it. When he reached Sector 7, the doors slid open, releasing a blast of warm, fragrant air. Alien design was different from human halls. The walls curved in strange arcs glowing with pale blue light. Symbols danced across the panels, and in the center of the main chamber, chaos had broken loose. Several tall, silver-skinned attendants clustered around a medical bed. On it lay a woman, her breathing shallow, her face pale with a strange bluish tint. Ethan froze at the sight. She was clearly not human. Her features were sharp and elegant, her hair dark like liquid glass, and her skin carried faint patterns that pulsed faintly with light. Her eyes, half closed, glimmered with golden rings. She looked regal, powerful, even while dying. One attendant shouted in their own language. Another slammed a palm against the control pad, trying to summon the automedic drones. But the drones hovered uselessly, their arms clicking as they failed to begin treatment. The alien woman coughed weakly, her chest spasming. A low mechanical voice translated one attendant's words. "The ducts are blocked. Her life systems are failing. We cannot clear it without a surgeon." Ethan felt his throat tighten. He had no training in alien biology, but years of fixing pipes and coolant lines made the word duct familiar to him. It wasn't medicine, it was engineering. He stepped closer, trying to understand. One attendant noticed him and barked, "Human! Leave this place. This is beyond your kind." Ethan almost obeyed. It wasn't his business. But then his eyes fell on the woman again. Her hand trembled, reaching weakly toward the attendants, but no one dared touch her. Their fear was stronger than their loyalty. She was dying. Something inside him snapped. He couldn't just walk away. "What's happening to her?" he asked firmly. The translation drone hesitated, then answered, "Her life ducts are blocked. Flow must continue or her body will collapse. Our machines cannot reach. Healers are far, too far." Ethan's mind raced. Blocked flow, pressure building, system collapsing. It was like a clogged coolant pipe in the station's reactors. If you waited too long, the whole system overheated and failed. "I might be able to help," Ethan said. His voice sounded strange even to himself. The attendants all turned to stare at him. Their glowing eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in disbelief. "You, a human?" one said, almost spitting the word. "You think you can fix what our healers cannot?" Ethan held his ground. "I'm an engineer. I know ducts. I know blockages. I can at least try." The alien woman's weak eyes flicked open, golden light shimmering faintly. For a moment she seemed to study him, measuring, judging, searching for something. Then, with a faint twitch of her fingers, she gestured toward him. The attendants gasped. "Lady Saris, you cannot mean it." But Saris Villar, as Ethan would later learn her name, gave the smallest nod her strength allowed. The meaning was clear. Let him try. Ethan's heart pounded. He set down his toolkit and opened it, pulling out a small inspection probe, a flexible tubing cleaner, and a sterilizing cloth. They weren't medical tools, but they were precise. And he trusted his hands more than any machine. The attendants muttered in fear and anger, but none dared defy their mistress's choice. Ethan moved closer, trying to steady his shaking hands. He saw the strange organ under her skin where the blockage lay. The translucent patterns across her body glowed unevenly, like a machine struggling to restart. "All right," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. This is just plumbing, just plumbing. He worked carefully, sliding the probe along the duct line while his other hand steadied her. The woman winced but did not cry out. Her eyes never left him. Minutes stretched like hours. Sweat dripped down Ethan's forehead as he guided the tool deeper, searching for the clog. His engineer's mind imagined the flow, the pressure points, the release valves. At last he found the blockage. It was thick, resistant like hardened coolant inside a pipe. He used the tubing cleaner, twisting slowly, gently until a sudden hiss. A pulse of glowing light rippled across Saris's skin. Her chest lifted as air rushed back into her lungs. The attendants gasped. Their translation drone spoke what none dared to say aloud. The duct. It flows again. Saris let out a long, trembling breath. The glow of her patterns brightened, steady and strong. Her golden eyes focused fully on Ethan now, alive with new strength. Ethan withdrew the tool carefully and stepped back. His heart thundered in his chest. He had done it. Somehow, impossibly, he had done it. Silence filled the chamber. Every alien attendant stared at the human engineer as if he had just performed a miracle. One whispered, "This is not possible." Another hissed, "No human should—" But Saris raised a hand weakly, silencing them. Her voice, soft but firm, carried through the chamber. "You saved me," she said, her words translated into Ethan's tongue. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, wiping sweat from his brow. "I just fixed a clog. Anyone could have done it. But deep down he knew the truth. None of them would have. None of them could." The chamber was quiet after the miracle. Saris Villar's breathing had returned to normal, her glowing skin pulsing steadily. Ethan wiped his hands on a rag, trying to shake off the adrenaline. He expected the attendants to be grateful or angry, but he hadn't expected what came next. One of the silver-skinned attendants, taller than the others, stepped forward. His eyes narrowed, glowing a faint violet. "Human," he said slowly, "you should leave. You do not belong here. You interfered with sacred medical protocols." Ethan shook his head. "I helped her survive. That's all I meant to do." The attendant's expression hardened. "You risked her life by touching her. Only a healer of proper training may act in this chamber." Saris stirred on the bed. Her golden eyes turned to him, weak but piercing. She raised a hand slightly and gestured toward the attendant. The gesture was clear. "Leave him. He is my choice." The attendants hesitated. They whispered among themselves in rapid, melodic tones, but no one dared disobey her. Even their strict hierarchy bowed to her decision. Ethan looked at Saris, realizing that the stakes were higher than he first thought. She was not just a diplomat, she was a powerful figure among her people, and she had trusted him when no one else would. He swallowed hard. "Sir," one attendant finally said, "we must contact the healers. This condition could recur. Your actions were reckless. Only a trained healer—" "I don't care about training," Saris interrupted weakly, her voice calm but authoritative. "He has already proven his skill. He understands what others cannot." Ethan blinked, unsure whether to feel proud or terrified. He had no medical background, no knowledge of alien biology, but somehow his human way of thinking had worked. And now, she was asking him to do it again if necessary. The attendants reluctantly stepped aside, muttering in low tones. Ethan knelt next to Saris, examining her as she lay on the soft, glowing bed. The flowing patterns across her skin were stable, but he noticed subtle irregularities, slight blockages forming in smaller ducts, ones the alien medics might not have noticed yet. "Your system," he said cautiously, "it's still delicate. The main flow is fine, but smaller ducts might clog if we're not careful." Saris tilted her head slightly, a faint glow of amusement crossing her features. "You speak as if you know my body intimately, human," Ethan laughed nervously. "Not intimately, but I fixed clogged pipes, coolant lines, hydraulic systems. Your body works a lot like that." The attendants froze at his words. One whispered sharply to the other, "He calls it pipes?" "Exactly," Ethan said, seeing their confusion. "You have ducts. They carry vital fluid. If there's a blockage, the pressure builds. If the pressure builds too much, the system fails. Simple physics." He reached for his toolkit and removed a few items. A small flexible probe, a soft rubber catheter, and a diagnostic scanner he had modified himself. "I think I can monitor the smaller ducts and prevent future blockages," he explained. The attendants shook their heads, their glowing eyes wide. "This is impossible. A human should not even touch these systems again." Saris moved her hand slightly, resting it over Ethan's. The gesture was delicate, almost imperceptible, but it carried weight. Do it. Ethan took a deep breath. All right, let's try this carefully. I won't hurt you. The next hour was tense. Ethan worked slowly, adjusting instruments and carefully monitoring the tiny ducts that he believed could fail. His human mind broke the alien physiology into patterns he could understand. Where the alien medics relied on complicated machines and rituals, he relied on logic, observation, and trial and error. When he gently inserted the flexible probe into a minor duct, Saris flinched slightly, but her trust never wavered. I will not flinch from pain, she said softly. Your method is unusual but effective. Ethan smiled faintly. Thanks. That helps. He worked methodically, feeling the subtle resistance in each duct, then slowly manipulating it until the flow returned. The glowing patterns along her skin brightened gradually. With each adjustment, Saris seemed to regain strength, her breathing steadier, her posture relaxing. The attendants watched, stunned into silence. None had expected this human to succeed a second time, let alone handle such delicate systems with his crude tools. Hours passed, but the work was not without reward. The smaller ducts cleared, and Ethan could see the improvement in real time. Saris's glow reached a steady rhythm, indicating a fully restored flow. Finally, he stepped back and wiped his forehead. Done. I think that's it for now. You should rest. Saris turned to him, her eyes studying his face with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. You understand my systems better than most of my healers, she said quietly. Humans. You have a way of seeing the impossible and making it possible. Ethan shrugged. I don't know about that. I just looked at it differently. I treat problems as problems, not sacred mysteries. Her golden eyes sparkled. Perhaps that is your gift. Perhaps humans see the world clearly without fear of tradition or ritual. The attendants murmured among themselves, some shocked, others curious. They had never heard such praise from Saris Valar for any non-alien before. Ethan realized then that this moment was more than a medical success. It was a turning point. The galaxy, or at least this station, would view humans differently from now on. The station's communication panel buzzed, interrupting the quiet. One attendant approached it and hesitated before translating. Lady Saris, your council requests your presence immediately. There is concern over your condition, and the human who treated you. Saris nodded, her expression calm. I will go, but this human remains with me. He is no longer just a visitor, he is essential. Ethan's stomach dropped. Essential? He had not come here seeking importance or recognition. He only wanted to help. Yet now, because he acted when no one else would, his life was entangled with hers and, by extension, with the politics of an entire species. He followed her as she stood, her body still weak but her spirit strong. The attendants fell in line behind them, whispering anxiously. Some looked at him with awe, others with suspicion. In the elevator rising toward the diplomatic level, Ethan caught Saris's gaze. Her eyes held a quiet question. Can I trust you to do more than fix ducts? Can you face what comes next? Ethan swallowed. He had no idea, but he knew one thing: he could not leave her. Not now. Not after everything. The elevator doors slid open, revealing the long corridor that led to the heart of her council. Alien guards lined the walls, their eyes glowing faintly, scrutinizing him. Some whispered warnings to each other. Humans were rarely allowed this close to the council. Saris moved with a grace that commanded attention. Her presence alone demanded respect. And yet at her side walked a human, scruffy, unassuming, sweating from hours of work, holding only a toolkit. The whispers grew louder. How could a human walk beside the great Saris Valar? Ethan tried to keep his step steady. Every fiber of his being screamed caution, but he reminded himself of the simple truth that had guided him so far. Think logically, act carefully, and trust in your skill. The council chamber doors loomed ahead. Beyond them lay political power, alien scrutiny, and perhaps more challenges than he had ever faced in his life. Saris paused, glancing at him. Do not falter, she said softly. Your mind is human. Your mind is sharp. That is why you are here. Ethan nodded, swallowing his fear. He did not fully understand what she meant, but he felt the truth of it. Humans were different, perhaps in ways the galaxy had not yet appreciated. They were capable of things even the most advanced aliens could not imagine. The council chamber was vast, taller than any human building Ethan had ever seen. The walls curved in sweeping arcs, glowing faintly with a light that seemed to flow like water. Alien symbols shifted along the panels, showing messages he could not fully understand. At the far end of the chamber sat the council members, tall, silver-skinned beings with glowing eyes, each radiating authority. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. He was a human engineer, not a diplomat or a hero. He had fixed a critical problem, saved Sarah's Valor's life, but now he stood in front of her council, a stranger in a strange world, wondering if they would see him as savior or a threat. Saris walked beside him with steady grace, her hand lightly brushing his arm as she guided him forward. The attendants who had followed them into the chamber bowed low. Ethan nodded awkwardly, unsure of the proper protocol. He had no idea what gestures were respectful or offensive in this culture. The council's eyes shifted to him. Whispers rippled among them, soft, melodic, and tense. Finally, the eldest council member, a being with deep violet patterns glowing across its skin, spoke. Saris Valar, the voice intoned, low and commanding. We have received word of your condition, and of the human who intervened. Saris nodded calmly. Yes, he saved my life when no other could. And now he stands with me as a witness that humans can offer solutions beyond our understanding. The council members exchanged glances. Some frowned, others raised glowing ridges in curiosity. One counselor, tall and sharp-eyed, stepped forward. You allowed a human, an untrained, unproven species, to manipulate your vital systems. Do you not see the danger in such reckless action? Saris did not flinch. I see risk, she said evenly. But I also see result. Humans think differently. Their minds are not bound by our rituals or assumptions. In this case, their perspective saved my life. Ethan swallowed. He had never imagined standing before the alien council, being praised by a member of their nobility. Yet he tried to keep his head down, not drawing attention to himself. The sharp-eyed counselor's glow brightened in disapproval. And yet he is a human, a species still untested in many ways. How can we trust him? How can we rely on one whose physiology is so primitive? Ethan opened his mouth, but Saris raised a hand, stopping him. Silence, she said firmly. Her golden eyes flashed across the chamber. The man's strength is not in muscle or in numbers. It is in creativity. He saw the impossible and acted. That is why he is here. That is why humans must be considered, not dismissed. A quiet murmur ran through the council. Some nodded in reluctant agreement, while others' glowing eyes narrowed in skepticism. Ethan realized the council was testing him. They were not only judging his actions, they were judging humanity itself. After the initial tension, Saris led him to a smaller chamber connected to the council floor. The room was calmer, dimmer, with soft light filtering through panels. She gestured for him to sit. You did well, she said softly. Your hand saved me. But I need to know, why did you act? Humans rarely step into situations that do not concern them directly. Ethan scratched the back of his neck. I don't know. Maybe I can't ignore suffering. Maybe I just saw a problem and wanted to fix it. I didn't think about species or politics. Saris smiled faintly. That is what makes you unusual. Most beings would panic or wait for someone else. But humans, you act differently. You see connections where others see only danger. He laughed nervously. I'm not sure that's praise or criticism. It is both, she said, her tone teasing but sincere. And it is why I trust you. I do not trust many beings so quickly, but you make me feel certain even when certainty is scarce. Ethan's heart raced. He had saved her life, but he had never expected to form a connection this strong. Something about her presence, the calm authority, the quiet intelligence made him feel both small and significant at the same time. Over the next few days, Ethan stayed close to Saris. The attendants were wary but allowed him access, though they watched his every move. He assisted in minor tasks, helping her adjust to her recovering body, using simple engineering tools to monitor delicate systems and ensure no blockages reformed. The alien staff marveled at his approach. Where they relied on complex machines, Ethan relied on observation and improvisation. He asked questions, tested assumptions, and often found simple solutions to problems that had baffled the most advanced healers. One evening, as Saris rested, Ethan noticed a small duct beginning to clog again. Without hesitation, he grabbed a flexible probe and worked quickly. The blockage cleared and Saris stirred, her glow brightening immediately. You never stop thinking, do you? She said, a faint smile on her lips. I can't, Ethan admitted. I guess humans are like that. We see a problem, we fix it. It's instinct. Sarah's golden eyes softened. And yet your instinct is rare here. Most beings act with caution, bound by rules or fear. You act with clarity. That is why I am drawn to you, and why I will trust you further. Ethan felt a warmth he could not explain. He had never received such trust, such respect from anyone before, not even in his own species. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Ethan learned more about her culture, her people, and the pressures she faced. Saris, in turn, learned about humanity, our adaptability, our courage, and our unique ways of seeing the world. One afternoon, while walking through the garden deck of the station, Ethan asked, "Why me? Why did you trust a human with something so personal?" Saris paused, looking at the glowing alien flora around them. "Because I saw that you cared more for life than for prestige. You did not hesitate when others would. That is rare in any species." He nodded slowly, realizing that this was more than simple gratitude. He had become more than an engineer. He had become a bridge, a living proof that humans could do more than others expected. But not all eyes on the station were friendly. Some attendants and council members whispered, their glowing eyes suspicious. A human saving one of the most powerful diplomats could not go unnoticed. It would stir fear and admiration in equal measure, and some would see him as a threat. Ethan felt the tension, but he ignored it. For now, he focused on Saris. They spent hours together, analyzing her recovery, monitoring her systems, and sharing stories of their respective worlds. With every interaction, their trust deepened. One night, the alarm suddenly rang. A small local system in the station's outer sector was failing. A cooling system for a critical habitat dome was compromised. Alien engineers scrambled but were unsure how to fix it quickly. Saris turned to Ethan. "Can you handle this?" He looked at the panels, analyzed the situation, and nodded. "It's just flow and pressure." "I can manage it," the attendants gasped. "You again?" Ethan ignored them and worked. Using his knowledge of mechanics and engineering, he improvised a solution. Within minutes, the system stabilized. The dome's life support resumed normal function. The attendants stared in awe. Sarah smiled faintly. "See? Humans act when others hesitate. They see solutions where others see impossibility." Ethan looked at her and felt a quiet pride, but also the weight of responsibility. This bond with Saris was no longer just personal. It was political, practical, and potentially dangerous. Yet, as he glanced at her golden eyes, he understood one thing clearly. Humans had a gift, and it was not in weapons or technology alone. It was in thought, creativity, and the courage to act. The success of Ethan's intervention spread through the station faster than he expected. Whispers filled the corridors, some admiring, some suspicious. Humans had always been seen as minor players, clever in small ways but incapable of influencing serious alien affairs. Now one human had changed that perception in hours. Ethan noticed the attention immediately. Attendants who had once avoided him bowed when he passed. Other species stopped mid-task to watch him work, curiosity and awe lighting their eyes. And everywhere he went there were murmurs. The human who saved Saris' valor. Saris, calm as ever, seemed aware of the stir he caused. One morning, while walking through the station's observation deck, she spoke quietly. "They are watching you," she said, her golden eyes studying him. "Not all of it is admiration. Some fear what they do not understand. Some will try to use you or discredit you." Ethan frowned. "Use me? Discredit me? I'm just doing my job. I'm not looking for trouble." Saris smiled faintly. "Humans rarely act without thinking of consequences. That is why you are effective. But beware, your presence here has ripple effects. You are no longer just an engineer, you are a symbol." The word sank into him slowly. A symbol. He had not asked for this. He had only wanted to help a dying being. Yet in doing so, he had stepped into a complex web of politics, culture, and perception. The ripple effect became clear when a group of council members called an emergency session. The chamber was tense, charged with energy. Ethan, standing beside Saris, felt the weight of dozens of glowing eyes on him. One counselor, whose skin shimmered like liquid silver, spoke first. "Saris Valar, we acknowledge your survival. We recognize the humans' contribution. But we must question the implications. A human, untrained and unbound by our protocols, has interfered in matters beyond their comprehension. This is unprecedented." Saris held her gaze steady. and yet it saved my life. Are we to reject results because the method is unfamiliar? Humans think differently, and that difference is valuable. We must not let fear blind us to potential. Another counselor, tall and narrow-eyed, leaned forward. But what does this mean for our species? If humans can perform actions we cannot, what will prevent them from becoming dominant in ways we cannot control? Ethan's stomach twisted. Dominant? He had never imagined his actions being seen as a threat. He had only wanted to help. Saris placed a calming hand on his arm. Do not fear, human. They are cautious. They are not hostile yet. They are trying to understand the value of your species as I have. The council murmured among themselves. Some nodded slowly, others frowned, but none dared challenge Saris directly. Ethan realized then how much trust she had placed in him, not just as a savior of her life, but as an example of humanity's potential. Word of his success spread beyond the station. Messages arrived from distant worlds, from alien diplomats and leaders, some congratulating, some questioning. Ethan was now more than a simple engineer. He had become a bridge between humans and an alien civilization. He found himself working closely with Saris, not just monitoring her recovery, but assisting in technical solutions for her people. One day she brought him to a problem that had stumped even her top engineers. A failing environmental regulator on a distant research habitat. Ethan studied the schematics. They overcomplicated it, he said quietly. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest one. Saris watched him, her golden eyes thoughtful. And you always find that simple solution, human? He shrugged. I don't know if it's simple, I just see what others miss. Over the next few hours he worked with the alien engineers. At first they resisted his suggestions, arguing in technical terms, quoting rules and procedures. But Ethan calmly and logically demonstrated each adjustment step by step. Slowly the regulators began to function properly. By the end the engineers were astonished. They looked at him with a mix of admiration and disbelief. Saris, watching silently, smiled faintly. You see, she said when they were alone. Humans act in ways that surprise even the most knowledgeable. That is why they must be included, not dismissed. Ethan laughed nervously. I'm just lucky. No, she corrected softly. You are not luck. You are human. That is enough. However, not everyone viewed him kindly. Some factions whispered behind closed doors. They feared the human influence, the attention he drew, the power he represented by mere action. Rumors began to spread, that humans were manipulative, that they could control events beyond their understanding, that one human had already upset centuries of tradition. Ethan was mostly unaware. He focused on his work, helping Saris recover, analyzing systems, and solving problems. But he noticed subtle changes. Some attendants avoided eye contact. Certain council members issued cautious orders, and he caught glimpses of private meetings where his name was mentioned with concern. One evening, Saris spoke quietly as they walked through the observation deck. There are those who do not wish to see humans succeed, she said. They will challenge you, perhaps even try to remove you from our station. You must be prepared, Ethan frowned. Remove me, why? I've only helped. Because change frightens them, she said softly. Your success represents a shift. Humans are no longer beneath notice. That is why you must remain vigilant and why I must remain near you. Her words carried weight he could not ignore. The bond between them had grown deeper, forged not only by gratitude but by shared experience. She trusted him, and now he understood that this trust carried responsibility far beyond what he had imagined. The days turned into weeks. Ethan and Saris continued to work together, repairing failing systems, monitoring alien infrastructure, and training attendants in new methods. They became a team, one human, one alien, proving that collaboration could achieve what individual skill could not. Through this time, Ethan noticed small signs of affection and mutual respect. Saris would offer a comforting hand when he worked tirelessly, or a quiet nod of approval when he solved a problem elegantly. He began to anticipate her needs, learning subtle cues in her expressions and movements. Yet with every success came tension. The council grew divided. Some members praised the human-human-alien collaboration as a model for future partnerships. Others feared that one human could upset centuries of balance, arguing that his presence was a threat to protocol and hierarchy. One day, a council meeting turned heated. Voices rose, glowing eyes flashed in anger. Ethan stood silently beside Saris as factions debated him openly. Some called him a hero. Others called him a danger. Finally, Saris stood, her voice ringing clear. Enough. This human saved my life when no one else could. He demonstrates the value of perspective, courage, and action. That is why he is here, and that is why you will respect him. Humans are not weak. They are not to be dismissed, and I will not allow fear to dictate the future of our people. A stunned silence followed. Some counselors bowed reluctantly. Others whispered in shock. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and relief. Saris had defended him publicly, risking her reputation to secure his place. He realized then that the bond between them was not just personal, it was political, cultural, and profound. By saving her life, he had become a symbol of humanity's potential, and Saris had become his staunchest ally. That night, as the station settled into quiet hums and gentle vibrations, Ethan stood alone on the observation deck. He looked out at the swirling clouds of the planet below, thinking of the ripples his actions had caused. One human, one small act of courage had shifted perception and challenged expectations. He understood something vital. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. His work, his perspective, and his willingness to act had made that clear. And with Saris by his side, he felt that the challenges ahead, political, technical, or personal, were not impossible. Humans had a gift. He realized the ability to act decisively, to see connections others missed, and to find solutions in the impossible. That gift was now on display for the galaxy to witness. The station hummed quietly as Ethan adjusted the instruments on the observation deck. Weeks had passed since the incident with Saris Valar's blocked ducts, but the consequences of his actions were still unfolding. The Alien Council had begun to shift in its perception of humans. Some factions embraced the notion that human ingenuity and adaptability could strengthen interstellar relations, while others remained wary, cautious of the unpredictable potential that one human had demonstrated. Ethan, however, had learned to focus on what mattered, solving problems. He was no diplomat, no politician, just an engineer, and engineers fixed what was broken. Saris approached quietly, her golden eyes reflecting the faint glow of the planet below. "There is another problem," she said softly. "A distant habitat dome in the outer system is failing. Life support levels are critical. If it collapses, many will die. Your skills may be required again." Ethan swallowed. The last time he had stepped into crisis, it had been to save her life. Now it was to save dozens or hundreds of lives. The stakes had grown far beyond what he had imagined. "Then let's fix it," he said, determination steadying his voice. "Show me what's wrong." The habitat dome systems were complex, designed to sustain an alien ecosystem in orbit above a barren moon. Panels blinked red, signaling overheating, pressure imbalances, and failing nutrient circulation. Alien engineers had already attempted repairs but hesitated, unwilling to deviate from protocol. They worked slowly, measuring and recalibrating, but the system's critical failures demanded immediate action. Ethan approached the console, scanning the schematics carefully. He could see the problem clearly. The designers had overcomplicated the flow circuits, creating bottlenecks that only became apparent under stress. "It's too rigid," he said aloud. "Everything is designed to follow rules, not adapt when conditions change. That's why it's failing." Saris nodded, her expression approving. "Humans think differently. Show them." He set to work, improvising solutions with the tools he had on hand. Where the alien engineers hesitated, he acted. Where they relied on machines and calculations, he relied on intuition and observation. He rerouted circuits, adjusted flow valves manually, and created temporary bypasses to stabilize pressure. Minutes stretched like hours. Sweat dripped down his forehead. His hands moved with precise care, and all the while the glowing lights of the failing dome reflected the stakes in his mind. One misstep could ruin everything. At first, the alien engineers watched skeptically. They muttered in rapid, melodic tones, arguing quietly among themselves. "This is reckless," one hissed. "The human cannot understand the system fully." Ethan ignored them, focusing on the task. "Watch and learn," he said softly, not to taunt but to show them a new way. Slowly, one by one, the engineers began to follow his adjustments. When the final flow valve opened and the circulation stabilized, the dome's systems lit green. Nutrients flowed, air pressure balanced, and life support normalized. The engineers blinked, unable to hide their astonishment. Cirrus's golden eyes glimmered with quiet pride. "See," she said, "humans act where others hesitate. They find solutions where others see only impossibility. This is the gift of your species." Ethan leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. He had done it. Not just for Cirrus, not just for himself, but for every life that depended on the habitat's survival. Word of the success spread quickly. This time there was no controversy, only recognition. The council acknowledged Ethan's actions as exemplary. Some alien factions began requesting human assistance, curious to learn the unique approaches that allowed one human to succeed where many experts failed. But Ethan did not seek fame. He had learned long ago that acting with purpose mattered more than recognition. He had stepped forward when others would not, and now the universe was noticing. He realized the true measure of his success was not applause, but the lives he had helped save and the respect he had earned from Cirrus and her people. In the quiet moments afterward, Cirrus led him to a balcony overlooking the starfield. "Do you see, Ethan?" she asked softly. "Your actions have changed more than systems. They have changed minds. You have proven that humans are not limited by fear or tradition. That is why I trust you and why I will defend you to my people." Ethan looked at her, humbled. "I didn't mean to change anything. I just wanted to help. And yet," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "helping is what defines you. Your species excels not in rules, not in power, but in thought, creativity, and courage. That is your gift. That is why humanity matters to the galaxy." For the first time, Ethan understood fully. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced, but they were adaptable. They could see solutions that others overlooked. They could act when others hesitated. That was strength, true strength. Weeks later, as the station returned to normal operations, the ripple effect of Ethan's actions continued to unfold. Alien leaders consulted him for advice, alien engineers adopted his methods, and humans stationed across the galaxy began to gain respect far beyond their numbers or technology. Ethan, however, remained grounded. He continued his work side by side with Cirrus, maintaining her recovery, monitoring systems, and quietly teaching lessons of logic, observation, and ingenuity. The bond between them had grown deeper, not only of trust but of mutual respect and understanding. One evening, as they sat in the observation deck, Cirrus spoke quietly. "You have done more than save lives, Ethan. You have shown what humans can do and what they can become. I am grateful, and I am proud to know you." Ethan looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. "I don't know what to say. I just did what I thought was right." "Exactly," she said, smiling faintly. "That is why you are extraordinary, not because you sought recognition, but because you acted when others could not." He nodded slowly, understanding at last the impact of his actions. One human acting with courage and clarity could make a difference not only for one life but for countless others, and even for the perception of his entire species. The galaxy had taken notice. Where humans had once been minor players, observers on the sidelines, they were now participants in the greater story. Ethan had shown that humanity's gift was not violence or conquest, but ingenuity, adaptability, and compassion. And with Cirrus at his side, he realized that the bond forged in crisis could reshape more than politics. It could reshape trust between species, creating a future where collaboration mattered more than fear, and where one human mind could illuminate the path for many. Ethan looked out at the stars, feeling a quiet pride and determination. Humanity's gift was not hidden anymore. It was visible, undeniable, and powerful in its simplicity. And he, a single human engineer, had helped bring it to light. For the first time, he truly understood that sometimes the greatest power in the universe was simply the courage to act, the creativity to see solutions, and the will to step forward when no one else would.